Phew, I've had a really busy day today. I've been marking essays all day. I must have assessed 20, 30 essays today, and I'm feeling a bit exhausted, but I really want to share with you some feedback on one of the tasks that I marked, and also explain to you why this candidate is not achieving the score that they should be, especially for task response. Now, this is quite a talented writer, and I think this writer is good enough to get to Band 8 and should be able to get to Band 8, but there's problems with the task response that significantly pull down the score, and I want to show you what these problems are so you can avoid these problems. In addition, I think if you watch this video, you're going to understand the psychology of the examiner better, especially at the end of this video when I give the score for each of the 4 criteria, break this down and explain it to you. Okay, so here's some task instructions, and whenever you look at the task, divide it into 2. So here's our topic. Nowadays, most big cities have high levels of congestion and road traffic issues. Note with this and that we have 2 issues in the topic, the level of congestion and traffic issues. In order to score well, you should be responding to both of these. Okay, and then we want to look at the questions. What are the causes? What are the causes of this? What are some solutions? Okay, it's a 2-question essay. We should use the structure for a 2-question essay. That's briefly an introduction, which will be rephrasing the topic and pointing out to the reader, to the examiner, what the 2 questions are. Then a paragraph for the first question, a paragraph for the second question, concluding paragraph where you should summarize your response to the 2 questions. Let's now move on and see some of the issues in this essay. First of all, you must not write any sort of title for your essay, and if you do, examiners are instructed to cut your score for task response. So don't get in the habit of doing something like this, writing my essay. Even if you're just practicing, don't get into bad habits. Now, one of the issues I've pointed out, the task instructions say issues. The candidates rephrase this to accidents. Not okay. This is too specific. This is only one kind of traffic issue. Okay, so you need a more general rephrase here. This reduces the score for task response. I've also mentioned the use of the word plethora here. Plethora of feasible solutions, not great. Plethora is about an abundance of something, and especially having too much of something, and I don't think that's great with solutions. It'd be better to say a wide range of solutions. Then here, the use of the word popular is not great. Let's read the topic sentence. There are several main reasons why the issue of the increasing road congestion is becoming popular. Popular means people like it. The candidate wants to write problematic or something like that. I'm really just going to focus on the highlights. I'm going to miss out a lot of these other issues. If you want to see all the issues, I'll give you the link at the end of this video and also in the description below this video. The comment on wood is quite interesting. Basically, you've got to be extremely careful using this word when talking about the future. Okay, so basically this paragraph is not too bad. The writer introduces 2 main causes of traffic problems. The first one being people breaking the law and causing traffic problems, and the second one, I guess it's really about urbanization, about cities becoming bigger, and as a result, it puts strain on their traffic system. This is mentioned quite well here. I think this could be a level 8 writer, perhaps, but this essay doesn't get to 8. I have a bit of an issue with the solutions. So the first one is that national leaders should encourage city dwellers to use public transport, and as a result, cars will be less. This is what I call a kind of empty solution, or insubstantial solution. What the writer needs to do is elaborate on this, encourage people to use public transportation. Makes it sound like they're just going to give a speech and tell people about, you really should take public transport. What the writer wants to do instead is suggest how national leaders can actually achieve this, such as making public transport cheaper or better. Okay, so not just encouraging it, but actually creating some policies that will make public transport cheaper and better, and thereby encourage people to use it and to use roads less, reducing traffic congestion, maybe increasing safety. And then I really don't like this second solution. Another effective remedy is that state officials should ban drivers from using mobile phones while driving. Well, I think they're already banned. I would imagine most countries have laws against this. So just saying this doesn't really convince me. And what I think it's a good idea. And then what they need to say, instead of banning drivers, which just sounds like making some laws, which I think most countries have already got, the candidate could write, make the penalties more severe to deter people from doing this. Okay, so basically we've already got penalties, but they're insufficient. They're not severe enough, and we need more severe penalties. This makes more sense. All right, then we get to the conclusion, and I know there's some teachers out there that tell you all you need is a one-sentence conclusion, and they are absolutely right. If all you want is 6, just write one sentence. That will be adequate. However, if you want to get a higher score, if you want to get to 7, and certainly if you want to get to 8, this piddly little conclusion is not enough. It's really important that you summarize the key points from the body of your essay in the concluding paragraph. This is the primary function of a concluding paragraph. So just saying it's caused by some factors, this is so wishy-washy. It's caused by some factors. Well, what are they? You must summarize them. This is important for task response. It's also important for your score for vocabulary, because you want to show your ability to paraphrase to the examiner, and you can do this by paraphrasing what you said in the body of the essay. So the causes from the body of the essay: breaking laws, so people not following the law, people flouting the law. You want to paraphrase what you said in the body of the essay. And then this increase in urban population, we could rephrase this to urbanization. And then the harsh measures, we should also elaborate on this. We should say what these measures are here. Paraphrase the body of the essay. Let's see. Encourage the use of public transport. Well, this should be stronger. We should say that the government should create policies to promote the use of public transportation. More severe penalties for using mobile phones. Actually, looking at this, really you want a more general idea too, here in the body and also in the concluding paragraph. Mobile phones is just an example. Really, there should be more strict penalties for all driving offences. Okay, so one of the ways to solve traffic issues such as deaths and accidents is to increase penalties for all types of road offences, not just mobile phones. What about speeding? We should cut down the number of people speeding. This will drastically reduce the number of road fatalities. So, all right, let's see how I've scored this candidate. I've said 6 to 7 for task response, solutions a week, concluding paragraph needs to summarise the reasons and solutions. The concluding paragraph is vital for getting to 8. This paragraph, this one sentence conclusion, is not good enough to get to 8, and then the solutions are weak. So that's why I'm saying a 6, possibly a 7. Maybe a 7 is justified. Cohesion and coherence, I gave 7. I didn't mention this. Avoid basic sequencing words such as firstly, secondly. So you can see that in this paragraph we've got two main ideas, firstly, secondly. These are extremely basic sequencing words. You're not showing any talent to the examiner with these. Instead, I would suggest you write something like, the main reason is, and then this gives extra information of value to the reader. It's not just telling them that this is one reason, it's telling the reader that this is the main reason. Extra highlighting, extra value to the reader, and this is why you want to do this, and this is why you could potentially get a higher score by doing this. Okay, so that's one of the reasons for not giving 8 basic sequencing words, and then the concluding paragraph is not ideal. Vocabulary 8. Now, there are a couple of errors. Some of them sort of seem serious, but are they? I'll give you an example. This writer's shown me lots of high-level language throughout the essay, like down here, another effective remedy. That's pretty nice language there. So this publish transport, I don't think this is a real error. I think that the writers had a bit of what's called a brain fart. They know what it should be, but for some reason it's just come out wrong when they've been writing their essay. So this error is quite minor. What else have we got? Well, I didn't like the plethora, but it's not reason to really so much cut the score. I'm just sort of trying to indicate to the writer that this is not ideally used. We could say this is a slight negative factor, but it's not a major reason to not give 8. Plethora would have been nice in the body of the essay too. If they'd used it in the body of the essay, it would have counted for them. Like what I mean, if it's used well in context, in the correct context. And then here, popular, problematic, this is really not great. But okay, I've highlighted errors with vocabulary. So notice how there aren't really too many throughout the essay. Okay, and as I said, one of them I think was a brain fart and not an actual... Well, it is a mistake because it's there, but I don't think it is indicative of the writer's level. And then grammar. The reason for the 8 is there's a wide variety of sentences, and, okay, errors are in green. There aren't many errors, except in this paragraph. There aren't many errors, only really in this paragraph. Actually, there's not a lot of errors with articles. I was wrong. There's only one here, jumping the red lights. You can't say the here because we don't know which red lights. You can only use the when we're talking about something specific everybody knows, such as the internet. There's only one, so when we're talking about the internet, everybody knows what it is. There's this sort of problem with would down here. Maybe I'll just share with you what's the problem here. So the writer has this would lead to a significant increase in urban population. And what it is that they really just want simple present tense. This leads to a significant increase in urban population. So finally we get to the, why am I giving this range? Because I'm sort of a bit undecided up here under task response. I don't like that the solutions are not weak. I don't like that the concluding paragraph doesn't summarize the reasons and solutions. Probably I'd give 7 overall, and 7 here in the end, because on the whole it's done quite well. The reasons have been done really well, the solutions not so well. I think that the writer could get 7. The main ideas are clear. On the whole, there's some decent explanation of them. If we look at the grading criteria, this can clarify things a bit. This is the public available criteria. I'll give you a link in the details under this video. Let's have a closer zoom in look at this. Alright, so if we look at task response, okay, so we're looking in the task response column, and let's look at band 7, because this is what I'm hesitant over. Should I give a 6 or a 7? I can't give a half mark. Examiners cannot give half marks for individual criteria. Now, in order for this to be a 7, it must fulfill all 3. If it does not fulfill all 3 of these criteria, then it will go down to level 6, to band 6, or possibly lower. So let's see, let's go through these one by one and decide. Addresses all parts of the task. Well, both the reasons and the solutions have been addressed, so yes, it definitely fulfills this. And this first one is the main one, by the way. This gives a sort of overall guidance, but all 3 conditions must be met. This one's definitely met. Presents a clear position throughout the response. Now, if this is an opinion essay, this is about having a clear opinion throughout. Since this is about causes and solutions, clear position here just means that the writer is focused on this throughout, that they're focused on causes and solutions. If the body went off onto some other sort of situation, like maybe the effects rather than the causes and solutions, that would be considered not having a clear position throughout the response. Okay. So I think that there is a clear focus on causes and solutions, so tick here. And then this last part is where I'm going to struggle. This is the part that really is tricky. So what have we got? Presents, extends, and supports main ideas. So we have to, this is really about presenting the main ideas, is that main ideas are presented, main ideas are given, and then extending and support, we do this by explaining things, we do this by giving illustrative examples. There is sort of some of this, my concern really is over the solutions and the coverage of the solutions, but there may be a tendency to overgeneralize. Okay, so maybe a tendency to overgeneralize. Overgeneralizing is about, well, this shows you here, overgeneralize, draw a conclusion or make a statement about something that is more general than is justified. This really does summarize what the person did in the solutions paragraph, to talk about the government should, what was the word? The government should encourage the use of public transportation. And I was saying they need to say how to make it cheaper, to make it more convenient. So I think that this is true. The candidate did overgeneralise. So we've got a tendency to overgeneralise. Overgeneralising throughout the essay would not be a band 6. Oh, sorry, a band 7. It wouldn't be a band 7. It would go down to band 6. So there is this sort of tendency, but it's not done all the time. If all the time the candidate was overgeneralising, they couldn't get to 7. Supporting ideas may lack focus. Yeah, I think that this does sort of state what the candidate's done. They've got the main idea about the government encouraging public transport, then there hasn't really been enough support for this one particular point. If there'd been issues with the causes as well, I would drop the score down to the 6, and you can just have a quick look at the 6 if you want. So we've got addresses all parts of the task, although some parts may be more fully covered than others. I'm almost tempted to give 6 now, because you think about it, the causes is covered really well, the solutions are not. Presents a relevant position, although the conclusions may become unclear or repetitive. I'm kind of clear about what they are. There's no real repetition, so that one's not an issue. Presents relevant ideas, but some may be inadequately developed, unclear. Yeah, you see, this does seem to apply. So I've really got a bit of a difficulty here deciding between the 7 and the 6. In the end, I think I will go for the 7. I'm satisfied that some parts have been done sufficiently well for 7, even though some parts have not been done quite so well. There's sort of tendency here. Alright, so I hope you've found this useful. You can see now maybe what examiners are thinking and some of the struggles that they go through when deciding. The other thing that's interesting too is you can see how I'm wrestling between whether to give a 6 or 7. What's the outcome of this? Okay, so let's see the impact. Sorry, I've had to update these scores from before. Depending on the score for task response, the average of the 4 scores is going to come out to 7.25 if I give a 6 for task response, and 7.5 if I give a 7 for task response. Now, the effect of this is going to be the candidate is going to get either a 7 or a 7.25. Note that this score would be rounded down and not up. This is probably not too bad a situation for this candidate unless they're going for 8, in which case disaster because they're not getting close to it. But imagine another situation. Imagine that there are 3 7s. There's 7 for everything but either a 6 or 7 for task response. Then that would mean that the scores would come out like this. So now we're imagining 7 for everything, either a 6 or a 7 for task response. That means the score is going to come out to either 6.75 or 7. Now imagine you need 7. If I gave 6 for task response and 7 for everything else, 6.75 rounded down 6.5. Now, a lot of people are stuck on this 6.5 and just can't understand why they're not getting to 7. Maybe you can understand why now. It's because of this task response, and it's because of grades getting rounded down and not up. I hope that you found this video useful. I hope it's going to help you to get the score that you need in your test. I'd also like to update you a bit on the score that I gave for task response and why I gave that score. And I don't think I articulated this as clearly as I could have earlier when I was explaining the essay. I kind of knew what the number should be in my mind, but I'm not always used to having to explain this. When I'm working as an examiner, I only have to give a score. I don't have to justify that score. And if you've ever got results and felt disappointed, you know this. You get the score, but you don't get any explanation from the examiner about why you got the score. And I hope this video is useful to kind of give you a bit of insight into what the examiner might be thinking and a bit about the psychology of the examiner. So, okay, update on the task response. I want to make a few comments about why I gave 7 and not 6. And really what I want to add in are some of the positive aspects to give 7. I did focus quite well, I think, on the negative aspects of the development of the main ideas not being sufficiently, the development of the main ideas not being ideal. So what are some of the positives? What are some of the reasons why I gave 7 and not 6? Okay, first of all, I mentioned that the ban on mobile phones was not a great idea, that most countries already have this in place. It's not a knowledge test, it's an English test. I shouldn't really penalise the writer for a lack of knowledge about the legal systems of countries. This could be a very young writer, they may be unaware, or they might just not know for whatever reason. So the examiner shouldn't really be penalising you for a lack of knowledge regarding certain issues. So in this case, we could argue that banning mobile phones being used in cars could be a valid solution. I think it's already existing, but I could see how maybe if someone didn't know that there were already these bans in place, that it would be a valid reason, a valid solution. Okay, so I shouldn't really penalise the ban, although it's hard not to as well. Another thing that I really liked about this essay, and I forgot to mention earlier, is that there's a really nice fit between the two causes and the two solutions. Bang, they fit together really nice. I really like this, and it supports a higher score for task response. This makes it clear to me that the writer has probably made a plan before they started writing, and this close fit between the causes and the solutions really important. If you go back to that grading criteria where it was talking about the clear position throughout the essay, this is sort of partly related to that. They've come up with two causes, and then the solutions fit together really nicely to solve those causes that were identified. Now, a lesser writer might have two causes and then two solutions that have absolutely nothing to do with those causes. This is kind of okay, but it's not ideal, right? It's better if your essay fits together as logical. In terms of task response and cohesion and coherence, I like to see this. If you want to see this essay in full, I'll put a link at the end of this video and also in the description below, so you could click on this and you could see the full essay if you want, and have a look yourself. Can you find some things that I missed? I went through this in about 20-30 minutes. If I spent hours on it, I could find more problems. What problems can you find? If you do find a problem, please write it in the description below. This will help your learning. This will help other people's learning. I will respond to your comment. You can ask questions to me if you want, again, in the description to this essay. All right, I hope you found it useful. The next video I'm going to make is going to be on model essay structure. So I'm going to give you one of my model essays. And that's another way of learning. You can learn from my model essays to see how you should ideally write. If you want to see that video, please subscribe to me. That way you'll get a notification as soon as my video is released. Give the video a thumbs up if you liked it. That will help other people to see this video.